All right, I think we are live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Resilience is Your Superpower. I'm here with the amazing Veronica Marquez, and I'm super excited because when I set off to do this series this month, only for the month of April, I set out because I was doing a rebranding. Originally, I was doing a rebranding of my self love program, which is now going to be called Resilience. And the reason I got inspired to call it that is for two reasons. One is I myself, in my own transformational journey of over 20 years, I've done so many personality tests and self assessments and going inward and trying to figure out who am I, what is my identity, and oftentimes I would be recommended to ask people around me how they would describe me, how they saw me, and bar none, most people would always say, Mio, you're resilient. And so that always stuck to me. And when we were thinking about the name for this program, I looked back and I looked at all the women who have taken the self love program, and I realized that they encompass the same trait, they embody the same trait. Every single woman that has taken this program is resilient. So, in honor of all the women that have taken the program and of all the women that will come and do the program in the future, and to all the women out there who are going through their own challenges in their life, I created this program to maybe share some inspirations, share some motivation, and share some light on how to tap into your own resilience. So I looked around in my community and I looked around at women that I know that are doing amazing things, that are overcoming their own challenges, and that are, living their life resiliently. And I'm so honored and blessed to have all these amazing women around me that I can bring and have a conversation with. So hopefully you can gain some insight for your own journey through my conversation with Veronica Marquez today. So Veronica is a researcher and facilitator. She's all about somatic and relational openness. She's a co-founder of a program or an event called Dinner Confidential, which is amazing, by the way. I've attended, and it's a global community and a space to explore, reimagine, and practice more open ways of relating with ourselves and with one another. So they offer communication trainings, coaching, thematic gatherings all around the world, and they're virtual and in person. So I'm super grateful to have Veronica here today. And just so you guys know, we're here Tuesday through Friday, every day during the week of April, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. and Wednesdays and Fridays at 5 p.m. live on YouTube. So make sure to log in and check out all the new amazing interviews I'll be having with these amazing women. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Veronica. Welcome, 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 Veronica. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you, Mia. I'm so happy that you invited me. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you for being here. So, for the viewers out there that may not know you, maybe we can start off by you telling them a little bit about yourself. Like, what do you do? What are you up to? What's your passion? What do you do in life?
Okay. I'm a researcher. That's what I've worked in my career for many years. Qualitative research, understanding why people do what they do. I used to do that for big brands, and a few years ago, I had a big shift in my life, and I got a coaching certification, became a coach, and created this now global community that really lives at the intersection of what's my passion in life, which is community, storytelling, communication, and all of my research expertise. So over the last 3 years, I've been hosting these monthly gatherings with women all around the world, some of them with men as well, where we explore some of our most sensitive topics, from ambition to abortion to forgiveness, self-love. And then at the end of the month, all of the facilitators, we get together and we share what we learn without disclosing any information, and then we write an article about it. And from that whole experience, we realize like the power of being able to listen to one another, particularly on topics that are really hard to talk about. And that takes courage, that takes resilience. And from there, well, we have completely evolved, and now we are doing communication trainings and programs and all kinds of different things. And it's been really wonderful to collaborate with an amazing group of humans just from all over the world. So that's a little bit about me. Yeah. And I still work as a coach. I still work doing that. So I wear many, many hats. I'm also a mom. I have two children, 8 and 4. So that's one of the biggest roles and most important roles in my life.
Wow, yes, absolutely. Hats off to you for that. That's amazing. So, what do you think is that thing that made you realize along your journey to do what you're doing today? Because Dinner Confidential is incredible. What was that one thing that made you realize that you wanted to do what you do now? And tell us about that journey.
Yes, there was something like just I was living in New York at the time when all of this started, and I had a good life, I had a good job, nice relationship, partnership with my husband. Uh, we have two kids, and but there was something inside of me that was not feeling right. And I think that's, I mean, the more I share, the more I know that this is just such a common feeling in so many of us. Something it wasn't feeling right, and I knew that there were probably other people out there who felt that they probably came across as having it all together and a good life, but something inside wasn't just really clicking, wasn't really working. So I was curious to know if other women were experiencing the same thing. And finally, I gained the courage to send an email to a lot of people that I knew in New York, inviting them into my home for a dinner to talk about self confidence, which was one of the topics that I was especially like struggling with, and with no intention other than like a women's circle, come together, let's listen. And I remember at the end of that night just realizing, oh my god, I'm here with this group of incredible women who I admire and they inspire me, and yet we're all here struggling in different ways with our self-confidence, which is just something now that I just know that's always the case. There's so much to the story to what we see on the surface. And that really started to plant the seed. One dinner became two and three and four, and it's just continued to grow. And now we've done dinners in about 35 cities all around the world, from Tokyo to Nairobi to Mumbai, across Europe, Lisbon, Rome, across the US, Latin America. So it's been really, really wonderful. But I think, as most things, right, they start with a personal need, with my own desire to not be so hard on myself. And it's something that I have to continue working on. And I found that, and I didn't know this back then, but in retrospect, right, a way to stop being so hard on myself is to stop thinking that I'm special in my own issues, and remember that we're all going through something. And when we listen to those stories, really, really listen to them, then there's a sense of comfort, of unity, of connection, and resilience that comes from that.
Amazing. Yes. Sometimes through our own teaching ourselves what we like, what we feel we lack, or what we feel that we can strengthen, or any weakness, we actually are teaching ourselves to grow and expand more, and then teaching others the same. So it's almost like through our own challenges is how we become stronger. That's beautiful. So is there something along your way? You were mentioning how you were in New York and life was perfect or seemingly perfect. Is there anything along the way that you feel like you had to overcome, or a few things you had to overcome in your journey, as far as obstacles, challenges, to get you here where you are now?
Yes, of course. I mean, there's the ongoing challenge of crazy mind, but but in other more like tangible challenges, I think the hardest things for me were getting sick after I had my my first child. He was 1 year old, and I developed tuberculosis, but it's a very random thing, and it took several like weeks to understand what was going on. I was hospitalized. They told me I had cancer, like all of these really challenging things. And I think that before that, I really saw myself as someone who, I'm healthy, I'm young, I'm strong. I'm like, I never really saw myself as as so vulnerable. And particularly after I became a mom, where I was just so much more attached to life, because someone depended on me. That experience really traumatized me. And when I say the word traumatized, I'm using the description that one of my biggest mentors right now, Dr. Gabor Mate, he he talks about trauma is not what happens to us, but what happens inside of us. And we can know we have experienced trauma when that experience has um, a, diminish our ability to respond in the present moment in the way that we would like to respond. So for me, after that experience, I would get a headache. Oh my God, I'm having a tumor, I'm dying. My child would have a stomach ache. Wow, it just, I was feeling that for anything I would die. And it's been now 8 years of just constantly reminding myself, like, whew, okay, it's a headache. Let me just not go into the panic mode, into the catastrophe mode. And then and a few years later, I got another weird condition, neurological condition called mild embarkment syndrome. If anybody out there have it, I feel for you. It's horrible. You just feel that you are rocking in a boat all the time. But those two things I've been able to recover, not only physically but also emotionally. There are still like tentacles that come out in terms of my neurosis around like fear, but I think there was a lot of work that I need to do. And in that moment, with when I first got well, the second one with the mild embarkment syndrome, I remember feeling so anxious that I said I need help. And I took 2 weeks off from work. I started going back to therapy. I chiropractor, astrology, cranial sacral. I literally did all of the things that could help me, because I knew that I needed help. And I think that's one of the biggest moments of so me, resilience is also, it's not only about strength, but it's also knowing when we really need to ask for help and being able to receive it. Oh no, I cannot hear you.
Absolutely. 10,000%. That's actually one of our questions that I always bring up, because resilience is, you're absolutely right. It's about strength, but it's also about allowing support in, allowing yourself to receive support, asking for help, putting yourself out there, getting yourself outside of your little like box of like, oh my God, catastrophe, life is over. And so when you were able to step out and ask for help, you were able to see new opportunities, new possibilities, new openings for yourself. And so that's so powerful that because physical ailments like medical health, wellness ailments are very difficult to overcome. You almost feel like a victim to them. You feel like, oh my God, there's no way out, but you were able to overcome it and come out the other side. What was that thing for you, like, to like going through that? What was it that kept you like going? Like, what was your true north? Like, what was the thing that, like, over everything that you were like, okay, like, I need to move forward, I need to overcome this?
Particularly with the second one, because the tuberculosis, after I went through the weeks of not knowing what it was, and that being really scary and actually leading to like panic attack, entering the hospital, like, at least that was contained and there was a solution once it was discovered. But then the second one, the neurological condition, there's no cure to that. So that I went into a deep hole of, am I going to have to live my life this way? I went into Google, all the things that you shouldn't do, just researching horrific stories of people who have to experience this on a daily basis for years. And I think that really what kept me going was I went to see a doctor who's the first one who diagnosed me. And he told me, yeah, but like, listen, you have this. I'm sorry, there's no cure, but like, yeah, you're young, you'll figure it out. But he didn't give me any support. And then I went to see a second doctor, and he said to me, yeah, it's true, you have this, but you know what? Like, you can go and find your balance. Go and do the things that give you balance. Go and do the things that keep you grounded. And he just talked to me as a human. And I think that he planted a seed of hope. So I think like having hope, that things can actually get better, is what was helping me just not to go into despair of like how I cannot be in front of a computer. There were all these things that I wasn't able to do at that point. Um, so I think just having that hope, and then having support in my home, and really doing my part. I literally just took off work, diet, like doing all the things. I am not gonna be I'm gonna try to just really work on my mental health here, because I know that all of my anxiety is contributing to making these symptoms even worse. And as things happen, right, like as soon as I started taking care of my own anxiety, of my own fears, I I was able to find that balance. I was able to find that center, and eventually, I actually ended up being able to get pregnant for the second time, which it has taken us a long time to be able to conceive for the second time. So. Um, it's a bit of a end up being a happy story, but I also know that things are so cyclical. So I try not to attach too much of that, and just know that okay, that was a good time, and let's see what else, what other challenges will come in my life.
Right. And so yeah, like being open to the flow of life, and how, the ebb and the flow and the circle of life versus being attached to what it has to look like, and then being like let down or disappointed when it doesn't come out your way. It's more like, yeah, like just, relaxing and opening up to what's to come and being in the present moment. So that's beautiful. So now looking back at where you are now, that you said that now you're like in a happier place and you were able to overcome this, was there a time, like, do you realize now that you were resilient and how you were resilient, or during that, while that was happening, were you realizing that you were resilient, and how?
I have this image as you're speaking of me being in my couch in my home, just like so small, just like crying. And James, my husband, would have to just take Lucas to the playground every day because I just felt like I couldn't do. I just didn't feel like I couldn't leave my home. And at that point, I felt so weak. I felt so vulnerable. I didn't see myself as resilient there. I think it went hand in hand of me taking the step of saying, no, I'm just gonna stand up and I'm gonna go and do this yoga class, and realizing, okay, I can do this yoga class. And that gave me a sense of that resilience. And then I would just like come back and feel bad, and go back into the couch, but then like another step. So it was just finding those little wins that will remind me, hey, I can I can do this, even just having those pockets. So it's not like resilient, but just like those little moments that were reminding me, hey, you're stronger. And I think that, when I think about resilience now, I think about like being able to stay present with that discomfort that's happening. Back then, I didn't have that language, or that understanding. But I was so uncomfortable with my own fear that I just was pushing it away. And for me, the resilience now is how can I try to stay with that fear, with that anxiety, with that sadness, or whatever it is, that strong emotion present for a little bit longer without pushing it away. And that to me is what resilience, it's what, when I think about resilience, that's what it is.
Amazing. Beautiful. And so we were talking a minute ago, you touched on how, being able to ask for help was pivotal in your journey. And that's one of the things we always talk about on these resilience is your superpower, because asking for help tends to be a challenge for those of us who are resilient, because we got to where we were by taking the bull by the horns and like making it our own, and trudging forward, and making it happen. And if it's going to get done, it's going to get done. If it's going to get done right, it's going to get done by me. And like, having that whole mindset. And so asking for help is actually oftentimes a challenge. So when you were opening yourself up, like, what did you go through? Like, did you have challenges? Was there anxiety? Was there embarrassment, fear? Like, what are the things that opened up for you as a result of actually opening up and asking for help?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of fear, and I didn't want to talk to that many people. I remember I had just one friend in New York who would come into my home, and she would give me Reiki, and she would just like listen to me. And I was in just such a hole that I didn't feel that I could speak to to other people, but knowing who I could ask for help, because I knew that I couldn't just ask for anybody. And there were some people who I would ask for help and I was going to feel actually even more overwhelmed. So that was one thing that was important for me to know: who can really help me in this moment? Who are the people that are going to make me feel a bit more balanced?
And how,
So
sorry, how did you determine that?
yeah, I that's an interesting question, because I think I just had to go with like what was feeling right in that moment. Like, okay, like just really trusting what feels right. And the moments when I am denying myself from help, like also, like, why am I doing that? Like, why am I denying myself from help? And it's so hard to ask for help. It's so hard to ask for help, but that's the only way. I cannot think of any other way. Either um, any help that and help for each of us is going to mean different things, but without having, or like, for example, one day I was going to go and see a doctor, and I asked a friend to come with me. I didn't want to go by myself, and I wanted a girlfriend. I didn't want my husband. I wanted a girlfriend. So just asking for her, and so I had one person in my work who I told, and she was like, okay, I would call her like, I'm having an attack. I think I'm having vertigo, but I didn't know what was going on. So finding that anchor, just that one person in the places where we are, I think that I could hide it from everybody else, but at least I had one person who I knew I could just kind of like collapse. And that felt really safe for me.
Amazing. And so you overcame your own fear and your own, like, let's say, embarrassment or, worry or whatever, and you were able to find your anchor, which is powerful.
Yeah, I mean, in all of this, right, there's just so much like anger, fear, anxiety. All of these things are just like one on top of the other. And yes, I it's just like being vulnerable with other people, right? Like, yes, I asking for help is one of the most vulnerable things, because we think that we are weak when we're asking for help, but obviously we're not. So yeah, I was able to confront some of that and find those people that really were able to help me.
Totally. Yeah, we think that asking for help is weak, but it actually makes us stronger because we're tribal creatures. We thrive in community. We thrive in connection. We're not, we don't live in a vacuum. Like, we're communal creatures. We need each other. We live and we thrive, we evolve with each other. So it's so powerful. Thank you for sharing that so vulnerably. And now I want to pivot the conversation to another topic that comes up a lot in the conversation of resilience, which is the word failure. And throughout all of our journeys, anyone who's up to something, anyone who has a dream, a desire, anyone, even just not even a dream or desire, just living your life, we tend to go through a lot of failures, right? No one likes to talk about failure, but what is failure really, And and more specifically, what has failure meant to you in your journey? What have you considered maybe one of your greatest failures in your past? And what has been the biggest thing that has opened up for you as a result of going through those failures?
It's interesting because I've been so afraid. I've overcome a lot of that, but still, so afraid of failing for so long, particularly in my 20s. Oh my God, I was mortified of failing. So I wouldn't take any risks. I wouldn't apply for that job. I wouldn't even dare to admit to other people of something that I wanted, because I was so afraid of failing. Now that I think about it, I'm like, so in some ways, in those years, I never had a big failure. And I think just if we cannot name a big failure, that's an indication that we are not taking enough risks. um because I was always incredibly like adventurous, and I would love to experiment, but I would do it wisely, not when I would be really
Calculated.
exactly.
Calculated, yeah.
So I remember one of the big like moments when I decided just to take a risk. and you could see it as a failure. It's a failure, but also has a flip side. So I finally sent my email to invite people to come to dinner, to do this dinner confidential, and my first 3 dinners were like a hit, and like my friends were so excited to come. And then I sent an email after the first 3 dinners inviting people to come back, and I was so, I wasn't cocky, but I was so like sure that these dinners people were so interested that they were going to be filled out so quickly, that I said, hey, I'm sorry if I cannot accommodate everybody. The first 3 dinners were so full. Here are the dates. I'll see you. And then nothing. Like, I think 1 or 2 people signed up for these dinners, and to me that was a big failure. I put myself out there. I'm like, I told you that they were gonna be sold out because because they were such a success the first time around. And then nothing. And then I felt so embarrassed to go and say to people, hey, there's still spaces because nobody signed up. And I remember talking to a friend of mine, and she was saying, oh, what day did you send it? Like, maybe let's just find a different moon to send it on a different moon. And I'm like, okay, what can I do? And then I realized at that point, okay, I can pretend that didn't happen. And I can send another email, hey, there's still a few spots. I can just pretend. But what happened if I test this assumption? Is this a failure? Are people not really interested in this, or what's going on? And what happens if I actually become curious about this thing and I just learn from it? So I send an email, again, very vulnerable, saying, hey, I'm curious. I sent this email. The first 3 dinners were so good that I was expecting more people were going to sign up, and only a couple of people did. So I wonder what happened. I wonder if it's because you're not interested, or something else. And wow, right away, I missed it. It went to my spam. I'm gonna be traveling, this and that. And and then, well, that was just like another stepping stone that allowed me to continue doing this. So I think that I at that point I could have stopped, which is what I maybe would have done in the past. Like, well, nobody wants this. Like, this is just a silly experiment. I can just stop. Um, so I think just really taking those risks and being able to put ourselves out there and just ask, like, hey, what's happening, and then, like, I mean, like, other, like, I've started a lot of different initiatives. Like, I had a traveling blog, and that never gained traction. I started a relocation company, and that never gained traction. Like, so I have, like, all of those failures, but ultimately my heart wasn't in it. So I don't see them really as failures, because for me, failure is when my heart is so in it and I still fail. And right now in my life, for the first time, I'm taking the biggest risk, because I am putting all of my money, all of my time, all of my effort into rebranding Dinner Confidential, into taking it into a different stage. And I am mortified that it could fail. But I am doing it anyway. And I think this is the first time that I am actually just taking just such big risk. So we will see. Next time we speak, I'll let you know what happened with that one.
Amazing. And it's funny how what opened up for you as a result of that failure of nobody showing up to the dinner or nobody signing up for it, and then you opened up yourself vulnerably and you were authentic, and then you got this response back, like that they had missed it, like everything that you were thinking, that, oh, this sucks, I'm terrible, maybe people don't like me, all these things that we make up in our mind, none of it was true. And it was just completely that it was in their spam box and they were traveling and they missed it, and whatever, who knows, all the different things that were going on with them. And you were able to, like, almost verify to yourself that what you were thinking, all these terrible things, weren't even true. And then you pointed to something that I always love to, because when we talk about the word failure, like, what does failure really mean? And I always say, replace that F word with another F word, which is feedback. So failure is actually feedback. So we make this thing of, like, oh my God, this is a failure. But really, is it? It's actually feedback to help you continue on your journey, to help you get stronger and to go to the direction that you're going in. And to your point, if your heart is in it, it can never be a failure because your heart is in it. So it's just about, okay, this is a feedback. The people didn't get the email. Let me send it again, and just kind of pivoting and refocusing your efforts. So I honor you for that. That's so courageous. And I think that Dinner Confidential is going to be very successful. So I would not worry about it. Just be confident. So, all right, this is amazing. So let me ask you this. Um, do you consider Dinner Confidential like one of your dreams that you are bringing into reality? Or if not, then what is something that you're working on, a dream that you're working on that you want to bring forth?
Yeah, that's I am. This is definitely my dream, my bigger vision, and it's what it's transforming. It started as only dinners. It started as one dinner in my apartment in New York, and it has completely evolved. And now we're changing names. I mean, there are a lot of things that are happening that I'm excited to share. I just want to wait for everything to come to be ready. But we have a new website, like new offerings. It really is fully transforming. And at the heart, it's all around communication. And how can we be having more productive conversations? How can we be better listeners? How can we speak for ourselves? How can we build our resilience to be with the discomfort of just the hard, like the strong emotions that we feel, the hard conversations that we all need to have? And that's really what I want to dedicate my life. So that's the dream. And it's a true labor of collaboration with incredible people just from all over the world. And I'm also trying to reimagine what collaboration may look like, because collaboration is often being like very competitive. So what does it look like to really create new ways of doing businesses that is just not one person at the top, and I don't know, getting everything and then just hiring a couple of people to do things, but what would it look like to create really systems and ways of doing business that are truly collaborative and regenerative for everybody involved? So that's, and with completely different perspectives, because right now I'm collaborating with people from truly all over the world. So that's something that I'm really excited about.
Amazing. Yes. A co-creation, a diverse with diversity and inclusion. And yeah, that's amazing. And I think that's where the world is going. I think that's what we're stepping into. We're going away from those old, archaic ways of doing business and really opening it up to like a more democratic, I would say, like a more democratic way of interacting with each other. So okay, beautiful. So what have you learned through your journey of everything you've been through? You told us about your medical issues, about your fears and launching Dinner Confidential, where you started and not taking risks, and then learning how to take risks, and all the things that you've gone through in your journey. What have you learned, and where do you feel that you're going from here with what you've learned?
Hmm. I'm I've learned that I can handle a lot more discomfort than I thought. Um, Emotional discomfort. I've learned that I've learned that it's really possible to. It's really hard, but it's possible to stay present with someone who may think completely different from you, who may have a completely different perspective on life, and stay present with them, stay curious about them, and also be very firm on where we stand. Because often, like, I am someone who either always want to be right, like, and it's my way, and I'm stubborn, and or I completely just avoid and please, and I just like hide in the corner. So either of those extremes. And I've learned that through really listening, to just developing a practice of open listening with our body, all the sensations that are happening in our bodies as we speak, all the nervousness, the tension, and with an open mind, really it's just that curiosity disarms, creates bridges. And that has been one of my biggest learnings. I've hosted dinners where I've had people who sit at across um, both sides of the debate on abortion. I've had people who sit a completely different perspective on the political spectrum. And being able to listen in those moments when we are so triggered, and being able just to stay engaged there, um, is really for me is really powerful, because we have inside of us those same completely opposite parts that we need to make peace with. And as we learn to make peace with them within ourselves, we're hopefully able to make peace with them outside of ourselves too. So that has been the biggest learning, and all of that is thanks to the incredible, profound, transformational practice of open and active listening. I'm obsessed. It changes your life.
Amazing. Beautiful. And so I always, this conversation has been amazing. Thank you so much for opening yourself up so vulnerably. And I always like to end with one question to to my resilience is your superpower women, which is, what words of wisdom would you like to leave our viewers who may be on a similar journey of you of resilience?
Hmm. I just love all the parts of yourself. Create space inside of you for all the parts that we don't like about ourselves. That's the personal journey I'm in. I think that's, if we could all allow more space and more compassion for the parts of us that we don't like, I at least be more curious about those parts. I think that's where we hopefully can be healing ourselves and healing our relationships and healing our world for just from so many horrific things that are happening. So yeah, the wisdom is within ourselves to open up and hopefully allow space for even the darkest parts inside of us that we don't like.
Beautiful. And it's through that integration that we're able to create more love and peace in the world.
Yes.
That's so amazing. Veronica, thank you so much. Thank you, those of you who are watching. I'm so excited to be bringing you this program for the month of April. Resilience, a breakthrough journey to self-love is coming soon. So check the link in the show notes for more info on that. It's an 8-week self-love program for women where we dive really deep into self-love and really, overcoming and transforming your relationship with yourself. And we're here every Tuesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. and every Wednesday and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. So make sure to tune in for these amazing interviews. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Veronica Marquez from Dinner Confidential for being here today. It was such a pleasure and honor to speak with you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Mia. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the work that you're doing in the world. Self love is just the most important thing. So, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you all so much for being here. I hope to see you soon. Until then, be kind to yourselves and we will see each other soon. Love you. Bye.